And Marc was my first international speaker at 4 years ago. You were there.
Correct. Yep.
And now he's back here again. And yeah, you then said, I know I think it was about 150 or something like the Bitcoin. He said this thing is going to be huge. It's going to be gigantic. And what do you think the Bitcoin will be in 10 years? We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday at BNR Radio. I think it's my belief is actually that there's at least a 60% chance that Bitcoin will go to about $500,000, potentially even higher than this, to about $1 million. And that's really based on the fact that supply is fixed and there's hardly any demand yet in the market. I mean, it's only small retail right now. Institutional investors are not in the market yet. Wall Street is not in it yet. They cannot invest in it because it's not traded on liquid exchanges normally. And that's going to change very soon.
Yeah, so it depends if it becomes a world cryptocurrency and be used in all kinds of different markets.
Not actually. I think it's more digital gold. I mean, if, for example, I think there's about $8 trillion of gold in the world. If just 10% of all the gold would be changed into Bitcoin, you would get a Bitcoin price of about $600,000. Just 10% of gold. And that's not even looking at the currency. If it's going to be currencies, all the money in the world is about 83 trillion, I think it is. If that would happen, the Bitcoin price would go to 6 million for coin. I don't think it's ever going to happen. But I mean, you need to look at these.
But you think we haven't even started?
We haven't even started. I mean, the current price of $2,600, $2,700 is not high. It's actually very much undervalued, I think.
Okay. Well, he said that 3 years ago, and he's repeating it now, so we can just. I mean, yeah, you're so famous. The TV crew is following you everywhere. What are they doing actually?
They make a documentary
about you.
No, it's about people who made money, and I think that's how it changes them.
Okay, how much money did you make with all this?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's all in Bitcoin now, so you know.
Yeah. Well, yesterday we had dinner, and he said, "Oh," and I said, "Can I send you some money?" And then he grabbed a wallet, and there were a couple of hundred Bitcoins here, a couple of hundred Bitcoins there, a couple of thousand Ethers here. And yes, he says, "This is my play wallet." So if you really want serious money, then you ask him. You don't get you get it there. That's really okay. So this thing will go up in value. Where are we at this moment with this cryptocurrency? I mean, you say there's hardly any demand. Where will the demand come from? Where will we use it for?
Well, I think the demand for Bitcoin at least is mainly going to come from institutional investors. I think for other currencies, Ethereum, it's mainly for ICOs, initial coin offerings. So basically companies that don't go for venture capital, but they raise money on the blockchain. And people who want to be involved in ICOs normally need to buy Ethereum to buy into these ICOs. That's where the demand comes from.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a smart contract. It can do everything. It can reorganize energy. Yeah. It can do voting. But you now say the most popular application is initial coin offering.
Well, at this point it is. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, obviously. I mean, I have a feeling that companies like Facebook or like eBay will all be blockchain companies eventually, and they're not going to be called Facebook. It's going to be something else. Basically, you want to take control of your own data. So, I mean, I like Facebook as a company right now. It's very valuable, but I think it's going to be replaced by something that is built on the blockchain. So that's going to be huge, but what it's going to be and when it's going to be.
And why is that? Only because we want to be controlling our own destiny in terms of identity and communication?
I think so.
Do we care? Nobody ever cares. Nobody ever cares about privacy
until things go wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, look at what we have now with the identity with big companies. We give everything away, and it has to be really severe, like stealing all our money. But we're protected by banks. But it doesn't seem to be a big.
No, not yet. People don't realize actually what people do with their data, right? I mean, I think the moment you get hacked and all your data suddenly ends up somewhere, then people realize, hey, hold on, how is this possible? Right now, people say, I don't care, it doesn't matter. I don't care that Facebook earns $1 when I put a like on something here. But the moment actually it has a big impact on you when it gets hacked, then people realize, hey, we need a different solution. And it's going to happen for sure. Everything's being hacked.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. And it depends how you react when you're being hacked. That is true. Yeah. Okay, Ethereum. What can we expect? In 1 year, last year we talked about it a lot, and we talked about the governance issue and about the DAO. And what do you think of Ethereum as a second biggest public blockchain?
I like Ethereum. I mean, I like Ethereum as a smart contract blockchain, but I think it's grown way too quickly. I mean, over the past couple of months, it went up 30, 40 times. I think that's just way too much. I think looking at where Ethereum is in its terms of development and the valuation of all the Ethereums together, it's way too high. So I think eventually Ethereum is going to be much more valuable than now. But I think we are going to be in for a major crash. It's once the
wait. Let's see.
Okay.
Can you grab your phones and let's see? Can you go to Skiffer for a second and have the first question about? We want to know who of you owns Bitcoin and Ether or both. Let's see who that is. 40% in this room still has no Bitcoin or Ether, even though I offered it for free. Okay, so we'll see that happens. And then 34% has both, and so it's interesting.
That's actually interesting.
Yeah. So next, what do you guys think? The next one. Do you expect a crash anytime soon? Okay, you're very bullish on the crash. 10% Bitcoin, 26% Ether, and 40% both, and 20% thinks night. Okay, so that's our opinion of the wisdom of this crowd.
Yeah.
What do you think? What will happen in the next year?
Next year, I think what's going to happen is that some of the initial coin offerings actually will turn out to be, scams, or at least they will not perform. So the ICOs will have a big problem there. At the same moment, I think the companies that raised the ICOs will put the Ethereum that they raised. They will change the fiat currency, change to dollars. At that moment, you start getting selling pressure on Ethereum. And
so within a year, you think this initial coin offering will be over? It will go down, people will not buy it anymore, and they will go away from Ether?
It takes 6 to 9 months for people to figure out that, when they bought into Bancor, for example, that the valuation is just not in line with what it should have been. And it will also take a few months before these ICO companies will start changing their Ethereum into fiat currency. The moment they start doing this, the price will go down, and then they all start selling, and then the public is like, oh, there's a crash, I'm going to start selling as well. Then you get a more reasonable valuation for Ether, and then it will go up and eventually be higher than it currently is.
Okay, so it will be the hype cycle. And so when will the crash happen? What day? What month?
I think February next year.
February next year will be the big crash, and then will we be out of the crash at the next conference in June?
No, it's going to take more time. For Bitcoin, it took basically 2 years to sort of get back above $1,000 again, and then suddenly the sky's the limit. So I think it's going to take a bit of time.
Yeah. Okay, so we need 2 more years. How do you? I mean, you're an investor, right? And this VC, you've been in this VC business. You invest in a lot of companies, and suddenly, within a year, now there's more money invested in startups through initial coin offering. All these startups, they say, you're not getting shares from me. No, we just come up with our own coin. And then we sell you the coins at a discount, whatever the discount, and then suddenly that's bigger than the VC industry.
Yeah. So
you don't feel disrupted?
No, because I invest in them as well. But no, and I'm actually doing an ICO for a hedge fund that I run. So
you're going to do a coin, an ICO for a hedge fund.
Yeah.
You're not giving us a return. We can buy your coin,
and then you get a return, a double return. Okay. No, but I mean, so to get to your question, I think the VC industry will be disrupted, but I think it's going to take a while before ICOs are going to be more well known for the general public. Now, right now, it's mainly the early adopters that have Ethereum, that have Bitcoin. They're buying into this. Most people here. Maybe it's a question. How many people here bought into any ICOs? That is maybe less than 10%, I would say.
I would say 10% of an audience which is extremely interested in this subject. So it is very small. Well, the next speaker is an expert on ICO, so we'll ask him a little bit about how money. Maybe we can put it. We can put it as a question in. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but you think it is a legitimate way to raise money, but it will be. It's now at the hype cycle.
Absolutely, it's totally over the top. I mean, a startup that's maybe worth $5 or $10 million in traditional VC land suddenly raises $150 million, for example. That's out of this world. That's crazy. And the only reason I invest is to sell it the next day at a higher price. I'm not keeping these things. If I can get rid of it right away, I'll do. Just to make a lot of money quickly. But then I don't believe in the value of these companies. I buy back in if they go back.
Well, don't you look at the companies? Don't you look at these specific companies and say, "Hey, there's something here. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's really interesting." What is the most interesting?
The most interesting one is something I bought into yesterday, Civic, which is an online digital identity, basically, run by Vinnie Lingham, as a friend of mine. I think this guy really knows what he's doing. He's doing it in a more reasonable way. He's not raising it all in 3 minutes. And he could maybe raise a lot more money if he would do it differently. But I believe in his company, and that's actually a coin I will not sell. I will keep this.
Okay.
All the other coins are flip.
Okay, let's talk about your traditional activities, investing in startups. What kind of startups are you investing in at the moment, which having to do with the blockchain?
Yeah, so I mean, I do a lot of things related to Bitcoin and blockchain at the moment. That's what I did for basically fintech. Broadly, I would say fintech investments I mainly do. Anything that disrupts banks, that disrupts the financial system. I think we're going to be in for a major crash of the whole financial system. So I look at how's the world going to change over the next couple of years.
And is that euro or dollars or?
I think it's going to start with dollars. I'm surprised actually that with Donald Trump that the U.S. economy the U.S. stock exchange still hasn't crashed. I mean that has to happen. I just don't get why it's not happening.
The Americans are really, they're really good in having insane leaders, and just it doesn't matter. I mean, they can fight each other. They cannot get anything done.
Yeah.
I mean, in Belgium too. Belgium had a fantastic period where there was no government and everybody had nothing. No decisions were made. Belgium was doing fine.
Yeah.
So
well, the stock exchange normally is forward-looking, right? So you would expect that having a sort of mentally challenged leader, running the world would lead to a stock market falling.
Because you would expect that.
I mean, it's not happening, and I don't know why. Is it being manipulated somehow? I mean, theoretically, this has to go, and so I mean, I sold most of my shares a couple of months ago, put it into Bitcoin and other things, and sort of waiting for the crash to happen before buying back in.
Okay. Give me an interesting. I mean, you invited. We have Ling speaking at the end of the session, and he's a Chinese company of peer-to-peer lending. How big are they?
Valuation is over $1 billion. It's a 4-year-old company. Yeah. I invested in the seed round. I'm on the board actually.
Yeah, in the seed round. Ooh, yeah, it's $1 billion now, and it's peer-to-peer lending, and they do every month about $400 million peer-to-peer lending, but they have made a blockchain for Foxconn to make it more clear who is supplying to what.
Blockchain as a service,
blockchain as a service for trade financing support.
Correct. Yeah.
So that sounds pretty small in the value chain that you want to optimize something with the blockchain. Why is that so? Why is a company like that doing that?
Well, it seems small. Actually, I think Generong is one of the most innovative companies in the world, in my opinion, because they look ahead. They look at where's the world going, and they were the first one to really quickly build a very strong blockchain for this. Foxconn is one of the leading companies in the world. I mean, people don't realize how big it is. I mean, working with Foxconn on the supply chain, I mean, you cannot get any bigger than this. It's
basically as good as gold. If you work with them, it's like supplying to Apple. Everybody loves the supplier who supplies to Apple. That raises your... And they make that with the blockchain, they make that clear.
They make that, and they are able to do the loans as well. So they have both sides. They have the blockchain side, but they're able to provide the loans for these suppliers. So they have all the information. It's a very smart move, in my opinion.
Okay, and so they help the customer, they help the company to look good and to be able to get credit on that thing.
Yeah.
What is another investment which you expect a lot of?
I just invested in an education tech company. Actually, that's going to change education world. But it's completely different from here, so I don't want to say too much about it. But I think education is in for a completely change as well. I think the traditional universities will not be there maybe again in 10 years from now. At least not in the US because they're too expensive. People pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for an education. That is just crazy. And with virtual reality, with artificial reality, and the internet, there will be a new form of education. So I'm investing in that as well. But it's a completely different field of sport.
Yeah. Okay. So next year when we sit here, what will the Bitcoin be?
Next year, probably about $5,000.
Okay. Well, you have a nice advice. Thank you very much, Marc.
You're welcome. Thank you.